Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your Tuesday and a great week out there so far. Here to give you some updated information on what's going to happen weather-wise between now and the next 24 hours. We'll even extend a little bit deeper into our Wednesday, even to our Thursday for certain areas of the country, especially the western U.S. So we'll break it down for you folks. There's a clipper moving across the Great Lakes region into the Ohio Valley. Eventually, we'll move all the way into the central and southern Appalachian Mountains all the way down to the southeast. So we'll bring a little higher elevation snow, some rain for the lower elevations. We'll speak on the beginning stages of a storm system that will end up being multiple storm systems that's already entering the West Coast, and we'll talk in great detail on that. And then we'll give you some updated information on this storm system we've been watching that's going to sweep across the southern tier of the country into the southeast and pose the potential for some winter weather for certain areas. So we'll kind of give you all the overnight and this morning's model guidance on that. And then we'll take another peek at the extended forecast as we get deeper into February and how I really do think winter will have the last laugh, which is unfortunate for some people. For others who are winter weather fans, we're all laughing with it because we're happy about that because we're winter weather fans. But I understand not everybody likes snow and winter weather. I totally get that for sure. But I do think as we get deeper into February, winter is going to ramp up. I'm continuing to think that. Nothing has really changed with that. So with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So as far as the entire lower 48 in general, it's pretty quiet. We have this clipper kind of moving through sort of some just a weird outline of precipitation. It almost looks like a line of moisture, and it really is sweeping through, kind of starting to move out of Illinois. It's sweeping through Indiana, about to start moving to Ohio. Not a lot of cold air with this whatsoever. Above average temperatures, actually. So we're getting a little bit of snow in areas of Michigan. Snow will begin to enter southern Ontario. This will begin to fizzle out somewhat for the interior sections of the Northeast, but this will continue to dive down into the Appalachian Mountains, West Virginia, and then the mountains of like North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia a little bit later into the period. We do have moisture already beginning to fall across areas of the Pacific Northwest and Northern California, but this is just sort of the beginning stages of what's about to be a very active, I think, next several days into the foreseeable future, really. So this is what's going on right now. The middle of the country pretty quiet. Most of the Rockies pretty quiet. No thunderstorms forecast today. Most of the lower 48 is very stable, which means we don't have really any ingredients for severe weather or really just thunderstorms in general. Not any widespread heavy rainfall today, so we're not expecting any kind of flash flooding. So it's below 5%. So of course it does not show up on this map. Watches, warnings, and advisories. The eastern and central portion of the country is very quiet, but the western U.S. is beginning to get more active. We have winter storm watches ahead of a slug of moisture that's going to move into the west coastline and to the western states. I do think some of these winter storm watches will get upgraded to not just winter storm warnings, but some of them will get upgraded to blizzard warnings because all the high winds with these systems that are going to move in. We already have flood watches in effect for areas of northern and central California, and I do think they will get issued even all the way down here to like San Diego, Los Angeles. It looks like they're up for San Francisco already. And then these kind of mustard colors right here are high wind warnings. A lot of winds with this. So we'll continue to move forward. Let's talk about the southeast first. Most of the southeast pretty quiet. We start to get deeper into our morning into about midday, get all the way into the afternoon and the evening hours. And here it is. Just some rain beginning to fall. This will be a chilly rain for most of this area, the southern Alps region, eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee. But in these higher elevations, a few thousand feet up, snow will be falling. So, you guys got a pretty decent snow event with this last northwest flow a couple days ago. I do think some more snow will add on top of this. Winter has not been terrible up in the high country. It really hasn't. It's been around average. You guys have benefited from that system a couple weeks back with the Arctic blast. And you continue just to pick up these kind of smaller to medium scale events, what I call northwest flow events. So your winter has been not bad. It really hasn't. I can't speak for everyone. I don't live up there, but from what I've seen, it has not been that bad at all. But, we have yet to see that blockbuster winter storm in just the eastern U.S. in general. One of those ones that starts off in the southern Alps as a big winter storm, even the Piedmont, the Carolinas, North Georgia, and basically climbs all the way up the eastern seaboard. I do think we're going to have a risk of that as we get deeper into February. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. So got the moisture in the southern Alps region. You can see the splotches of blue here in the higher elevations. I think as we get into the overnight hours, some heavier downpours could sweep through the Carolinas. And with cold air aloft, because of this clipper, I would not be surprised one bit we get what we call grapple, which is basically a mixture between sleet and snow. Almost looks like small hail, or we get some sleet in general, or just maybe some wet snowflakes mixing in all together. I mean, this is kind of a setup that where you can have temperatures in the upper 30s, low 40s, and get a little bit of sleet. So I would not be surprised about that one bit if we get that out east of the mountains over into the overnight hours. And this sweeps through, becomes a stronger system, but it becomes a stronger system after it kind of moves. But Wednesday morning, waking up to some showers, like I said, I would not be surprised one bit we are waking up tomorrow morning with some sleet reports at all. A little closer look at the southern Alps region. Here's the moisture kind of moving in. Then we get to about 6, 7, 8 p.m. Moisture begins to enter the high elevations of Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia. Higher elevations seeing a little bit of snow. Kind of medium to lower elevations, probably going to struggle a little bit more. But, we get to about late evening. It looks like it's snowing pretty good, maybe up in like the Banner Elk, Boone region, Sugar Mountain. And could get some snow falling, certainly in southwest Virginia. And we definitely could get some snow in the Smokies, for sure. And we keep this going, and, there's kind of the lingering snow showers. I joke around all the time about northern Alabama. To me, it's like equivalent to Montana. I saw like yesterday morning where areas of northeast Montana, there it is, northeast Alabama got a dusting of snow. Was not expecting that at all. I wasn't really expecting snow showers, throughout Nashville yesterday, but it's just wild how much different the weather is in northern Alabama, especially northeast Alabama, even northwest Alabama, compared to like the rest of Alabama. But anyways, enough about Alabama. But we could get some snow showers, snow flurries in the Cumberland Plateau. Wouldn't be surprised one bit as we're waking up tomorrow morning. Just kind of one of those smaller scale events, which you guys west of the Alps always benefit from. Snowfall from this, a couple inches of snow possible at most. Not a big event at all. You can see it's confined just to those higher elevations. Northeast today, pretty quiet. Maybe some snow flurries, snow showers possible in Connecticut, southern New England. There's that clipper trying to bring some moisture into like Pennsylvania. I think it fizzles out. Could get some snow shower, snow flurry activity later this evening in like northern New Jersey, maybe around the New York City area. It's very possible. Could get some snow flurries into the D.C. area tomorrow morning. But most of the Northeast is very quiet today, if not all, for your Tuesday. So I will take a closer look at Ohio as some snow is going to make its way. Some rain, snow showers will make its way into Ohio throughout the next couple hours. And, saying that maybe some people could get a dusting of snow. The far northwest area sections of Ohio somebody could sneak in an inch of wet snow. It's very possible. And that'll be between now and the next couple hours, really. South central U.S., quiet weather. Once again, nothing to really speak on. We'll watch a little bit of moisture that tries to creep out of Mexico into extreme western Texas and then maybe southern New Mexico. Outside of that, nothing. It's very quiet. It's usually feast or famine in the south central U.S. It's usually absolutely nothing going on, or, you're getting a severe weather outbreak or some sort of Arctic blast, but, it's pretty quiet today. North central U.S., that clipper will continue to sort of move into the eastern sections of this area. There's that snow flying around early this afternoon in western Ohio. Will not be surprised if it falls down at a pretty heavy clip at some time later this morning to early this afternoon. Wouldn't be surprised one bit. Then we got some just scattered showers in Illinois, moving into Indiana. This is kind of displaced from that cold air aloft. So it's probably not going to really be in the form of snow, more than likely. But we get into Wednesday morning, and most of this entire area is in the clear. Western U.S. Is starting to get active this morning. Not very active, though. But I think as we start to move into this afternoon, we start to get more and more rain. It begins to enter. I think, most of it will stay offshore most of the daytime today. But then, as we start to get into this evening, later this afternoon, this evening, we start to get these rain showers in western Oregon and a good chunk of Washington State. They start to kind of clip the northern shorelines of California. But then as we move into the overnight hours tonight, this is when this really starts to fully emerge and really affect. The winds will really pick up. and the rain will really pick up, and even the higher elevation snow will. But I mean, even look up here in the Cascades. This is still a pretty warm storm. This first storm will definitely be warm, for sure. And you know, the higher, you got to get way up there in the Cascades to see any snow. But you kind of keep this going. We'll extend a little bit deeper into our Wednesday, and look at this heavy shield of moisture taking over Northern California. Higher elevation snow. But man, this is a wind-driven rain down here, and this begins to kind of ooze down in San Francisco, take over San Francisco tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Winds will be howling. Be definitely a windy, rainy windstorm for sure. And then as we get into deeper into our Wednesday, into the overnight hours of Wednesday into Thursday, this is when we can get blizzard conditions in the Sierra Nevada, and things really pick up. But this is as far out as we'll go. And as you can tell, this is like late evening, I think 10, 11 p.m. tomorrow night for you folks in California, and things are really starting to get pretty active for the state of California. And this is just kind of the first system out of many, I think, that we'll experience out here. You know, moisture between now and the next 24 hours, well, 48 hours, several inches of rain is possible in Northern California, and even along the California coastline, a few inches of rain is possible. And we look at the snow, it's a warmer system. You can tell, man, you got to get way up there to get any appreciable snowfall accumulations up in the Cascades. Sierra Nevada, same thing. I mean, it's still technically a warm system, but you know, you got some higher elevations down here in the Sierra Nevada that support more snow. But several inches to over a foot of snow, every a couple feet of snow is possible in these higher elevated regions here in California. And then winds are going to be a big deal. These are potential wind gusts between now and Thursday evening. I mean, look how windy it's starting to get down here in San Diego, LA. Potential for 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts. Not really today, but getting more so deeper into tomorrow. And then for your Thursday. But I definitely think this will begin to crank up later tonight in Northern California. Winds will begin to gust to 30, 40, some areas 50 miles per hour, especially the higher you get up in these higher elevated regions. So very windy conditions down here in San Fran. You folks getting 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts potentially as we get deeper into tomorrow. So temperature is pretty nice in Texas, the south central U.S., the deep south. It's warming up. But you can see where this clipper is kind of moving through, right? You can see this cold pocket of air. Temperatures will struggle, and even in some areas in like the Ohio Valley to get above 32 degrees a day. I think most will get into the mid-30s. Cold air kind of locked into the northeast. You won't get above freezing more than likely in like Boston, most of southern New England, just about all of New England. Very chilly day in the mid-Atlantic, 30s and 40s for highs. And, I could see it kind of being a day where, temperatures will struggle as far south as like North Carolina, and just kind of an average February day across the southeast for the most part. So temperatures out west, well above average. You can tell this is going to be a warmer system. Look at the valley in California. Someone might get close to 80 degrees. Look at the temperatures all the way up into Montana, folks. High plains, well into the 60s. So, yeah, this is well above average, like over 20-something degrees above average, if not more. It is more in some areas. So let's kind of give you some updated information on kind of the continuation of what we just talked about out west into the storm system in the southeast as we get later into this weekend and early next week. So we'll start off Thursday morning. You continue to get a slug of moisture into the western U.S. This will continue, and finally will begin to crawl across the Rockies, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, even the higher elevations even the lower elevations of Arizona, New Mexico sees rain, higher elevation snow. And this continues. We could potentially get a bigger system in the middle of the country, but you're right under the influence of this ridging. So this will be a lot of warm air. So therefore, you're getting rain all the way up into the Dakotas, all the way up to Minneapolis, which, by the way, Minneapolis has had a record low winter as far as snowfall. Have hardly had any snow so far this winter. It's pretty wild to think about as we almost enter February. We have to watch Colorado. I want to watch the front range with this system. We have to watch like Denver. And then as we start to get into our Saturday, I think a little bit more cold air kind of oozes into the Rockies. Snow levels probably drop. There goes another system already about to enter California right into here. Snow levels could really drop with this system as more cold air kind of enters the picture. Troughing sort of sets up. And then here comes our system moving into the southeast. All right, this is the one that we've been watching, right? Cold air trying to dive in. And let's just go on and zoom into this. Here it comes, and it actually looks like it's trying to snow in Charlotte sometime Monday. But for the most part, this is just a cool rain. It is. It doesn't deliver. But man, it is colder. I will tell you, this European run is colder than the one yesterday afternoon. I mean, and I'm going to talk about this here in a second. The common theme here is this is not interacting with the northern stream the way we need it to. It needs to interact with the northern stream, and I'll talk to you about that here in a second. But it's a miss for any kind of substantial winter storm. We'll take a look at the ensembles too for this. But same thing with the GFS. A lot of action out west as we get into our Friday. We'll have to watch Friday into our Saturday for a winter storm across Colorado. Like, I know I keep mentioning Denver, but this could be a system that could bring some snow for you folks. We'll just have to watch this. And, as we continue to move, there goes our system beginning to enter. A little cold air trying to get in, starts to enter the southeastern U.S. and the southern U.S. But this is all rain for Oklahoma, the middle of the country. I mean, Kansas, Nebraska, the Dakotas. Most of this is rain. Snow, cold air beginning to ooze into the Rockies. Here comes another big system. And the snow levels could drop with this system. And this one coming like the end of this weekend to the beginning of next week could be a much larger one. We need to watch this. Don't want to speak too heavily on it yet. Freak anybody out, out west, but the parade of storms is really going to start. But then we start to get into Sunday afternoon. We're talking about the southeast with this system. Here it comes. Where's the cold air? All rain. The only areas that are getting snow or any kind of wintry weather is the higher elevations of North Carolina. Getting pasted with heavy, wet snow. You're getting nothing but rain in South Carolina. You finally got the moisture. Where's the cold air? And this continues and heads on out and never really does anything except outside the higher elevated regions. So you look at the European ensemble, there's that signal for snow across the Rockies, the Cascades. This definitely the Sierra Nevada. Look how it spikes in the Sierra Nevada especially. And this is in 2-day intervals, 48 hours. So some of it kind of disappears and reappears because it shows it in a couple day periods. And there's the signal for the southeast, even mid-Atlantic. And, the signal's not very high. It's dropped. It has dropped for sure. It does show a little bit of a signal outside the mountains, but I think the European ensemble has the best idea with this. I think if anybody's going to get snow, you got to get on up and higher in elevation. You got to get a cold air feed with this. And the only way you do this is you get more of a influence from that 50-50 low that we keep talking about. This is going to pump more cold air in this, and this is going to sort of flirt the two areas of energy together, our upper low and our 50-50 low up there. We kind of been talking about that nonstop over the last several videos, and I'll speak on it again. The GFS ensemble, there it is. There's a snow signal, and we're just kind of looking at snow right now. We'll dive deeper into this tonight. And then there's our signal for the southeast appearing. And then there comes another big signal out west as we get into early next week. And a little bit closer look at this. This is the latest. Remember how I was shocked in last night's video when I showed this and I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting this. Well, this was definitely not as fun of a shock. But this is the latest GFS ensemble. You notice if you watched last night's video, it's dramatically dropped off. Still got a decent signal in the Piedmont, North Carolina, even upstate of South Carolina. But compared to what we've seen over the last couple of days, it's continued to sort of drop off. And really, the only signal that's there is the higher elevations of North Carolina. And even the signal there isn't that impressive. It really isn't, So, it's unfortunate. But, I continue to beat this horse. I really like as we get deeper into February. But let me see what we got going on. Here it is. I meant to have this up. So let me explain what's going on one more time for the new people. And people who maybe didn't understand it the first couple times I explained, and what's driving this kind of threat that we have. So it gets very active out west, and we're just going to go right to the point here. We're not going to show the movement here. So you got two areas of energy. The blue, think of that as energy. That's lower pressure. It's storminess, it's coolness. The reds, the oranges, even the pinks in this case, is ridging, blocking more stable conditions, warmer than average temperatures. So you got this anchored over Canada, all right, and then the northern portion of the country. You have this upper low right here, this pretty robust area of energy kind of undercutting this ridge. And then you have this trough that's digging down to here. All right, and this is a low. So we got high pressure here, low down here, low over here. All right, and the flow around high pressure goes like this. All right. And for you folks that, are thinking, Mitch, why are you explaining this again? I've heard this a million times. Well, there's probably new people in the audience potentially, and I think it's important to continue to explain it. But, you get the flow around the low that kind of goes like this, right? We talk a lot on this during, hurricane season and stuff when we're trying to figure out where these tropical systems are going to track. So what this is doing is these two currents, because you got a current kind of going like this, a current going like this, are kind of working together to pull cooler air from the Arctic kind of on what I would say is the eastern side of this ridge. And it's diving down and trying to feed this moisture that this low pressure is generating. So you got moisture associated with this at this current time, which is like the middle of the night, this coming Sunday into Monday morning. The actual European, this is the European ensemble, is showing moisture beginning to take over South Carolina. So in general, this is trying to bring cold air down, but the placement of this, what we call 50-50 low right here, it's called a 50-50 low because of it's in 50 longitude, 50 latitude in the northern hemisphere, the placement of where it is in the northern hemisphere on the earth, if that makes sense. But the placement of where this is basically, these kind of currents that are working together are kind of pushing cold air into this. But the thing that we've seen over the last 48 hours is this low has trended further eastward. So it's not really, two things are happening here. It's not providing that beneficial cold air feed anymore because this 50-50 low has kind of been trending east. You don't need the trend away from this moisture. Two, this is its own area of energy. So you have moisture associated with it. It's kind of pinwheeling around this low. You need, this low right here and this low to sort of flirt with one another, kind of connect here and almost phase. And what would happen there is that would inject some cold air into this system. I think that this system down here is going to be a pretty large system regardless of if there's any phasing. Upper lows can do that. They can be really robust and do erratic things. But man, you combine both of these and these could be a pretty big storm system. Inject cold air into this and then boom, you got a winter storm threat pretty far south. And the icon model showed that. And I'm not going to show the icon for you folks, but the icon is a great example of what happened with that. And let's see if we can pull it up here. It's probably going to jump. I just said I'm not going to show it, and here I am trying to show it. Where are you, icon? There you are, right there. It's probably going to jump to, yeah, I knew it was going to do that. So, you look at the icon, you see what it's showing here in this period, and here it is. And it really isn't a great example of it, to be honest. But there's, a little bit of closeness with this. And then at the end of the day, it looks like you just have another area of energy sort of right into here. It's allowing this to be a little bit more of a powerful system. But you kind of see the connection right into here, kind of the blues connecting to these darker blues, a little bit more of a connection with the energy. So I hope that makes sense. I try to get better and better in explaining that for you folks. But all in all, if I had to make a call on this system Tuesday morning, I would say that this isn't our system outside the mountains. East of the Alps, this is not the system we're waiting on. Could it still work? Absolutely. You inject a little bit more cold air into this, and you can get like a nuclear wet paste job of snow for areas of like the Eastern Carolinas into Virginia. But it's easier to work out a suppression problem, meaning it's so cold that moisture is getting suppressed to the south than it is to work out a cold air issue. That has always been the case most of the time. So the good news is, for winter weather fans, bad news for not, because I think regardless is going to happen. I'm going to stick to it. We get to March, nothing's happened. You guys let me have it. It is what it is. It's the nature of the beast and doing what I do. But I do think we get 10 days out. We're getting into through about the one third of February, like February 9th, 10th range. I think we're going to have a period of above average temperature. I think you're going to have your classic trough in the west, ridge in the east. But this is a very moving pattern. Watch what happens. This continues the European ensemble, and watch how those blues immediately begin to take over the eastern U.S. We get this tall spiking ridge. We call this a positive PNA, negative EPO, that doesn't just go over the western U.S., but goes over the Pacific too. And you start to get ridging all the way up into Alaska. And this is the beginning stages of a really good pattern in the eastern and central U.S. You can already see it. It's starting to unfold. What's comforting about this, if you're a winter weather fan, is that this matches up exactly with the beginnings of the extended forecast. And you look at the GFS ensemble, same thing. This doesn't stay in place for long. You get all the way to the end of the latest GFS ensemble. There's those blue colors showing up over the eastern and central U.S., indicating lower pressure, indicating storminess, and indicating a feed of cold air that's going to slide down into here. You got blocking over, Greenland. You like to see this tall spiking ridge up into this region, and then a dip in the trough right in here. Storm system's going to fly something like that. They might fly something like that. And then we got a cold air feed into all this energy right into here. That's kind of a very, very quick summary of what we're looking at here. And, you reattach the end of the ensembles to the beginning of the extended. And here it is, starting off 15 days from now, around mid-month, you keep this going. And I really think, I would say the 15th through the 20th, something big is going to happen across the eastern U.S. I don't know what that is. We're not even into that range in the regular GFS runs, the operational runs. But I do think as we move into about this time next week, I do think we're going to start to see some wild runs in the long range of the models that's going to reflect this pattern that we're seeing right here. And this continues, folks. We go all the way to about the 3rd to 4th week of February, which I know is getting late in the ball game, but that's just the way winter is sometimes. I speak a lot for my folks in the Carolinas, and this goes for Virginia and Georgia too. But if you hear my little girl singing in the background, she's just being a hoot, having a great time. But some of our best winters, some of our best winter storms happen right at the end of the favorable climo period, which, to me, once you start to get to about mid-February, you start to flirt with spring, especially if you live in the Southeast. But it's hilarious. But some of our biggest winter storms. Everybody remembers I don't remember, I wasn't alive, but of course I've read about it. 1973, the Carolinas. That was the biggest snowstorm in South Carolina history. And when did it happen? It happened in mid-February. People remember the 2004 system. Here in the upstate of South Carolina, Piedmont, North Carolina. 22 inches of snow fell in Rock Hill in the very end of February. So it can get wild in mid to late February. So, a lot of times it's not one of those snowstorms that typically it's one of those setups where you get a winter storm and then 3 or 4 days later it's in the 60s and 70s. But it's a winter storm. And sometimes it's just the way it's got to happen. I just think that, and I'm not speaking of the Southeast. I think the Northeast, for you folks in New York City, even Boston, DC and Baltimore's done better this season. But I think even into southern New England, where you haven't got that blockbuster El Nino type winter storm, I think there's a possibility you get that as we enter the last half of February. And I keep mentioning February, but folks, it could continue into March. You keep this going. And this is getting into the beginning of March. And, for you spring weather fans, unfortunately, this isn't a good look for you. I can tell you right now. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll try to do it again this evening. God bless and have a great Tuesday.